TMS, we've been doing quite a lot of work on various kinds of funds in the private equity space, Ben, over the last year or so. And it's revealed a lot of interesting things, some great thematics that we can get exposure to outside our public markets. And we're interested in talking to a lot of people. We got a great opportunity only a couple of weeks ago to catch up with a famed venture capitalist from Silicon Valley, Bobby Yazdani of Cota Capital. And it was great, Ben, while we had the chance to grab a video with him here in Sydney.
Yeah, some clients might remember in my meeting notes a year or so ago, we put in an interview he did at Livewire Live when he was down here in Sydney. Bobby is probably seen as one of the preeminent global venture capital investors, particularly in the US technology space and enterprise technology. And it was a pretty big opportunity for us to get to meet him and to run some questions by him. And we thought an opportunity to pass on some of that intel to our clients.
Exactly. And the key thematic that enterprise technology is throwing up, artificial intelligence, AI, probably the most used term this year, Ben. And last few years. But does everybody know what it is and how big the opportunity set is? I don't know they all do.
And how faddish is this, and what are life cycles and frontiers and all these sort of things look like? And I think we have to, it was a good reminder when you met up with him, Jez, that there's a very small number of people on this planet who have this intel in their heads. Was one thing I took out of this conversation was, I think you're kidding yourself if you're sitting for most people in a boardroom in Sydney thinking you're going to be an AI expert. You've got to hear from the people who are actually
at the coalface
of it.
And we did record a longer video. Today we're going to cut a few pieces up and show you them. We want you to get in touch and ask for the fuller version, which is available. But not everybody may be interested. Some will be highly interested. What we thought you'd really be interested in, the first piece we'll cut to, is where we discuss the super cycle and, again, how long that opportunity is. So we'll cut to that now.
So, I think the conditions, there are three conditions I think is still present. We have better talent pool today than before. Risk capital, there are ample risk capital looking to generate alpha. They're not looking to be in the mainstream. They're looking for special cases to create alpha. So there's plenty of capital. And the third piece of the puzzle is this beginning of what I have referred to as the new super cycle around AI.
Yes.
Which is, it's a frontier, and there are multiple fronts within that frontier. And the people who are right in the beginning of it will get to learn faster than other people. So the faster you learn, the faster you fail, the faster you get to know what to do. So I think this super cycles happens every, I think in the tech, maybe 7 to 10 years. And we are going through one of them today.
And these cycles, I think you've also said there are shorter cycles that play all the time, and maybe those cycles have become shorter, but these super cycles, they don't come along so often.
No.
And they can be ridden for a long time.
Well, I give you kind of my history with the super cycles. So I left University of California, Berkeley when I was 22, young computer scientist. It was the beginning of the destruction of IBM, where IBM controlled the entire full stack. And then you had all these small companies showed up called Microsoft and Oracle and Cisco and many Intel, that there was the beginning of a cycle. And when you just think about this is in the early 1980s. Yes. These are tiny companies and nobody cared about them. And look at today, Microsoft, or look at Cisco or Intel,
Oracle.
They dominate. So every cycle that starts, there is, on the front end of the cycle, there are winners and losers. Yeah. The winners dominate for many, many years. Still Microsoft dominate, still Intel dominate, still Adobe dominate. They haven't gone anywhere.
No.
And then there are new entrants. So I've seen the beginning of the personal computing and what we call client-server architecture. Then I saw in the beginning of the internet. it was yet another cycle. But within internet, there was a sub-cycle called software as a service and cloud computing. AWS came from that era.
Yeah.
Amazon came from that era. Google came from that era. And the list goes on. Salesforce came from that era. And they're not done yet.
No.
They're going to keep going. So every one of these cycles of experience is about 7 to 10 years. There would be early many winners, but there would be super winners.
Yes.
And it has 40, 50 years lag
That's it.
for each of those
Decades.
decades.
Yeah.
But every period you have new winners that shows up. So if you think about even Apple wasn't considered to be a winner in the 1990s.
No.
It was actually a loser.
I'm struggling. Yeah.
Struggling. They had maybe a robust Macintosh product line. They were just the beginning of the mobile phone. But really what put them on the map was iPhone. But it wasn't iPhone. It was iPhone and the App Store. That whole construct of the App Store is what really enabled Apple to service the 5 billion people now, or 4 billion people today. So it's complex to detecting the super cycle. It's complex to understand within the super cycle what's false positive, what's not, where in the super cycle you need to go first, second, or third, depending on the period. So you have to really understand the technology element and the architecture. So in this super cycle, the first group of winners were semiconductors. We talked
Yes.
about NVIDIA
We did.
earlier on, is because that's the core infrastructure of compute. So without that upgrade of the compute, you're not going to get other building blocks on top of that. It's like the mezzanine of the house has to be upgraded. Then the data centers have to get upgraded. Then you got the whole infrastructure to manage that asset has to get upgraded. And then there are all the tools that you need to build and develop new applications. So there is a stack that sits on top of each other that has to get upgraded through this cycle. I mean, I myself and a team of my team, we spend majority of our time trying to understand where is this architecture is going and positioning a portfolio that take advantage of it. But we are a technologist first, then we are financiers. We can't, in my business, you can't be a financier first and then be a technologist.
So Bobby, then, he is pretty, as you said, famed earlier. I think the term is a great term. But you get your fame by what you do, and your investment record has to stack up. But if you've got on your investment record early picks of Uber, Dropbox, Google and the like.
Yeah,
Salesforce. And who you know in the industry.
Yeah.
And Bobby gives us a bit of that in one of the other pieces we're about to show.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we got some intel there and in the longer form interview on, it's not just his investment history, it's also his work history.
Yeah.
Bobby was one of the first employees at Oracle. And as you said in the interview, out of that group spawned all of these multi-billion, trillion-dollar businesses. And, it feels like it's it's obviously a huge industry, but it's actually a pretty close, tight industry. And we're going to hear from Bobby about, I guess, with his funds, one of the reasons why he potentially has had a good investment track record is because what he can bring to those investee companies.
Definitely.
And that was a big takeout for me.
He calls it knowledge capital, not just writing a check out. It's staying on the journey, introducing into the network that he's created and what that can be both monetarily but also beyond that. And I think that's a little point to note. I think we're talking about a pretty good person here as well. He seems to have a bigger set than purely just what he can do for today's dollar. That long-term thinking is what's needed to invest in this space, but to invest overall. Yeah.
And we know that, some of the more highly sought after companies, it's not just about what you're willing to pay to be a shareholder in these businesses. It's in private equity land or venture capital land for the businesses that everyone wants to be a part of, and OpenAI has been one recently. They can take or choose who they want to take money from. It's they will be turning that on around and sort of saying, what are you going to bring to us? And that might also help what you're actually paying to get into that company as well.
And we've seen that in everything we've done in public markets
completely
too. Reputation really matters.
Yep.
So we'll throw you that next piece now.
So there are many pieces to this puzzle. Selection of the entrepreneur, the construction of the portfolio. How do you actually distribute risk within portfolio construction? How do you initiate the portfolio? How do you reserve for the portfolio? And then more and more importantly is how do we ensure that that investment becomes successful after writing a check and underwriting an investment? So we call it, this frontier requires not just capital, it needs experience, it needs knowledge capital, we call it. So capital without knowledge is no longer sufficient.
Yeah.
You need knowledge capital.
Yeah.
Even in your business, the clients come to you because you have a broad understanding of the market. You are knowledgeable. You're essentially, your knowledge is serving. It happens that you provide return to them, but his knowledge is leading you to help them. It's the same thing with us. In order for us to serve an entrepreneur, we have to have deep understanding of entrepreneurship and the process of building a great business and what they go through and all of the different challenges and steps that one goes through. We need to enable them having access to great customers, because early, in order for you to validate your insights, you need knowledgeable customers to validate your hypothesis.
Definitely.
That's a very important way for us to win deals. Is that I'm not going there, I'm going to give you a check. I'm going to give you access to really important customers that can help you validate your hypothesis. That is saving you hundreds of millions of dollars and time to do that. And then we do a lot of work in what we call competitive intelligence, so that they know what are all the competing other technologies that are playing in their zip code. Those two pieces of content or knowledge is strategic to them. And whether we invest or not, we do the work and we give it to them, because you're helping another person with their business. And that becomes a reputational thing.
Yes. Bobby, you've got to touch on some of your, fantastic investment returns in the past and picking just huge winners. So names that everybody knows: Dropbox, Uber, Salesforce, Google. These are the stocks that have been part of your investment performance over a long period of time. You've obviously found the combination of the right people, the right frontier opportunity set there. But can you tell people a little bit about those sorts of investments?
When I remember the two co-founders of Dropbox came to my office. They were two young engineers from MIT. And they came to see me, and they said, we just dropped out of MIT. And they said to me, we are starting a new company called Dropbox. I said, what is it you're doing? He said, we've identified a big shift that we think that the technology is not there. It's a new category of problems that is going to only grow over the years to come. And I said, well, what is this problem you're talking about? And he said, we think, this is in 2008. They told me that they believe all of us do our work on our mobile phone. He said, you do not ever have to go to your laptop to do your work.
And the iPhone.
This is in 2008. This
iPhone's
two young guy
Yeah.
is 2 years old. And he said, I don't remember, Drew said, there is no way people can actually share large files in a mobile environment. It was that simple. So he had, so what I was looking for, what I always look for, is someone that can articulate a problem that nobody has addressed before, and they have an elegance and a simplicity to talk about what is the solution I'm going to bring to them.
Yeah.
That to me is that aha moment, and it's sort of like it sparkles.
Yes.
You kind of know. So in the case of Uber, it was an experience on a corner. In 2009, a friend of mine said, let me show you this company, Uber. He pushed a button and a black car showed up to pick us up on his mobile phone in 2009. First, I thought these guys are tricking me. I said, they're making a fool out of me. Somebody called
Arranged it all.
Arranged it out. So we went a few blocks over, we pushed the button looking for another car.
And
So it was the elegance, the simplicity.
Solving a problem, yeah.
It was solving a real problem and the elegance of solving it.
Yeah. And now we can't remember what it was like before, which is what great innovation does.
Yeah, you cannot, I mean, you Uber everywhere. You Google everything. Is it in your Dropbox? People just say that. It's like, give it.
Changes everything.
It changes everything, yeah.
Okay, so fascinating insights from Bobby, and there's another piece he talks about what he's really liking at the moment. So that appears as part of a bit over half an hour, the full version, which, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're encouraging you to get in touch with us, reply to the email or get in touch with your advisor, and we can send you the full version of that interview.
Absolutely. And, we didn't want to overwhelm with everyone with it. This is, I guess this has been a part of a much bigger piece of work that we've been doing in the background here at TMS. And I think, what we're really interested in doing is trying to find what we think are the specialists in different areas. And this is one specific area, but there are other areas.
Yeah.
And, it's important that we're looking at everything and trying to work out who are ultimately the best managers we believe that are out there. And hopefully this will give some insight about what managers in a different area of the market look like and what they do and how they operate, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly right. So lastly, just again, get in touch with us if you'd like to see the full video of Bobby Yazdani of Cota Capital. We thank you again for viewing.